Hello everyone and welcome to this week's Pickens Power Half Hour. It is Dragon Talk for the next 30 minutes right here as we bring you into FYNTV.com on demand and also on our Facebook Live page, our Team FYN Sports page. Appreciate you guys being with us. As always, the usual cast of characters. Got RJ Casey with me, my co-host here tonight. Second week in a row, man. I'm telling you what, man, you're on fire.
Yeah.
You were on fire. You got the new T-shirt too, man.
Yeah, I do. I got the Fetch Force.
There we go.
Team FYN Sports.
We got Lauren Hunter here as well behind the scenes. She, of course, is the sports director, obviously, with Team FYN Sports, and DJ is our producer. With us, as always, is Coach Jeff Nelson, head coach Jeff Nelson with us. Thanks for being here.
Happy to be here.
Absolutely. Got Stephen Hunter, of course, assistant coach with us here tonight. Coach Hunter in the house, a former Dragon alum, and we'll talk to him a lot tonight. And we also have another round of players this week, some fresh faces, but some guys that have made some appearances before on the program. Of course, Jake Rogers and Big Sanchez down there on the end. Aiden Sanchez joining us here in this first segment. We'll have a couple other guys in our next segment. Guys, thanks for being with us. We're going to talk a little bit more, obviously, next week about, region, but obviously one more non-region game this week coming up against Chamblee, which we're going to talk about in the second segment. But let's go back to Friday night. The Dragons, of course, taking on White County, a team they beat twice last year, including the playoffs. Friday night, very good ball game, back and forth. Dragons defensively had some turnovers in this game. They were able to take away 3 picks on the night. We're going to talk a little bit more about that. But in the end, a very close ball game. Went to White County 27-20, the final there. And Coach, let's start with you. Obviously, it wasn't the way that you guys, I know, wanted it to go on Friday night. Another non-region game, another kind of tune-up game as you guys build towards the region. But still, plenty of positives, though, to take away from that game.
Yeah, I think so. Again, as I told the kids after the game, I thought we made just too many mistakes, and those mistakes cost us in the end. Again, the kids were hustling, they were playing hard. Intensity was there, but attention to detail, things that we got to work on, little things.
Absolutely. Here inside, of course, the Jim Lock Fieldhouse. In case you were wondering, we do want to thank all the folks, of course, from Johnny's New York Style Pizza here in Jasper, providing us with our pregame meal here tonight, and also Pepsi for providing the drinks. And we appreciate, of course, all those folks for being back on board with us. As always, a lot of fun. Obviously, it was a game of a lot of highlights. And last week, RJ, I know you kind of showcased Jared Whitmore as our sports writer player of the week, and he had a big game.
He had a big game. He was going for back-to-back weeks, but decided to go with TC Jarrett as the player of the week this week. Had an interception and was part of a defense that really stepped up in the second half. Gave up 21 points in that first half, stepped up in the second half, only gave up 6, and really kept the team in it last week. Trying to get that win.
Yeah, and we're going to talk to TC in the second segment. He's here just off camera tonight, and certainly a big effort by that defense. Jared Whitmore, of course, returning the opening kickoff for a touchdown. Had 2 more scores following a couple of those interceptions that the Dragons were able to take away. And really late in the ball game, driving for what could have been that winning score, but a costly turnover. It was returned down to the other end, and that led to the final score of the game. But Coach, again, going back to that, a lot of great individual efforts. We talked about Jared, of course, last week. He continued his solid play this week. And as RJ said, guys like TC and some of the guys here on our screen also stepping up.
Yeah, we had several players step up. We had a couple players besides TC. We had 3 interceptions. Kids stepping up, playing hard, and I think as they get more familiar with their positions, as you have a lot of kids that are playing that position for the first time, they're starting to get a little more grounded and understand what they're doing. And I thought in the second half we played the way we were capable of on defense, and hopefully we'll build on that and get ready for next week.
Sure. White County's a very good football team, so obviously a very competitive game. I know the rain started coming a little bit there in the second half. Did you stay dry? Did you find a dry place?
I did not.
Okay,
I did not.
Good.
That was some unexpected rain.
Yeah, there were a lot of games, of course, around the area that were postponed till Saturday, and I know one even played last Monday night, I think. But let's go to Coach Hunter. I want to bring you in as well. Now, I was asking these guys before the show if they realized how good of an athlete you were when you were here at Pickens High School. They said yes. So I guess you let them know that, or did they figure that out on their own, man? Because it's like deja vu. I mean, I'm like reliving like years ago You said there was a player in me interviewing you. It makes me feel old, man. What's up with that?
It's been a while.
talk about your position grouping, some of the things that you've worked on with your guys, and the way they performed on Friday night.
Okay. Well, I'm working with the running back, so Jared Whitmore's in my position group. It's been fun to watch him, step up this year. We knew last year he was a pretty good player, but we had a bunch of good running backs last year where,
Right.
He had to pretty much be an emergency guy or mainly a JV role. But he's worked really hard in the weight room, and it's good to see somebody like that having success.
Right, and having been here and understanding the tradition and some of the things that you guys did, I'll never forget, the night you guys beat Gainesville when you were in school. I know that's something that you'll probably never forget. But in your opinion, how has the game changed much? I mean, since you were in high school till now, as far philosophically on both sides of the ball, what are some of the changes that you've seen?
Well, I think everybody still tries to run the ball. We just do it in different ways. Everybody would pack in the box and just try to see who had the biggest, strongest people back in those days. And now we kind of spread them out, try to get some numbers outside of the box, and just get more favorable numbers to run. But, it's still usually the teams that can run the ball usually have success.
Absolutely. And you remember that.
Oh, yeah.
It must make you feel a little old, too.
Yeah, it does.
Come on now.
He's younger than I am.
Yeah, I'm younger. He was a senior when I was a freshman. So.
Right, yeah. Been around the program a long time, obviously. It's great to see that some of these guys, of course, graduated coming back, like Coach Hunter, to be able to come back and contribute to their alma mater and doing a great job. Let's bring in our players here in the first segment, too. We don't want time to get away from us. Obviously, we have Jake Rogers and Aiden Sanchez. Guys, thanks for being with us. And, Jake, I'll start with you. Obviously, we know Friday night didn't turn out the way you guys wanted to ultimately on the scoreboard, but as we said, there were some good things that happened. Defensively, you guys were able to shut them down in the second half for the most part. Offensively, able to move the football. I know there's some turnover, too, that was costly, but talk about your play on Friday night and you guys as a team.
Really, I didn't get a lot of opportunities to make a lot of big plays last Friday, but Mike TC, one of his biggest tackles, we worked together on that one play. I set the edge and he came down and carried it off, just made the tackle. And I think we really worked well together in the second half. Coach said we made a lot of mistakes, and that's noticeable, but I think we came together well in the second half, and we did good.
Absolutely. Aiden, what about you, your performance, I guess, on Friday night as far as being up front?
I thought we did a good job, moving the line of scrimmage a decent bit, but we made too many bad mistakes like penalties and offside and just stupid stuff like that, but we did pretty good for the most part.
Absolutely. You guys being in the position you're in, obviously graduation is a part of every year. You got guys that go in and go out, and now you guys kind of step up and be the next generation of leaders with those departed seniors that are now, at the next level or moving on in life. What do you feel about your role as a leader on this team? Do you feel like you have that role as a leader, maybe being an upperclassman?
Yes, sir. Most definitely.
There we go. Got to be a good influence, I guess, on the younger guys and that sort of stuff. What is your, and I know we've talked about this a little bit. Yeah. I was going to say, you want to throw something in there?
I was saying they're a leader, one way or the other.
Yeah, exactly. Whether you want to be or not, man, you got to step up into that role. I like to ask guys, some generic questions because y'all always say, hey, keep you don't throw me anything too complicated. So I don't ask you equations or math problems or anything. But but talk about what is it about a Friday night that gets you riled up? What is your favorite part about going out and playing football?
Going out there with my friends, seeing all the family and everything out there is it's fun to do it all in front of them.
Absolutely. What about you, Jake?
Stands. My whole life, when I was a freshman, I watched the Cherokee players run out. And I remember I used to see the stands. That just gets me pumped up, seeing all the people there.
Because people often wonder that from a fan's perspective. Do the guys really know what's going on? Do they really hear the crowd? Or is it kind of just blocked out and you guys don't even notice it? But you're saying you notice it.
Oh, I notice it.
Yeah, that's awesome. To me, and I'm not just saying this, I think you guys have one of the nicest stadiums in North Georgia. This thing seats, it's crazy. Because you used to have it just as one side, now you got the visiting side. It's an awesome facility. It definitely makes for an awesome Friday night. We do want to thank all of our sports sponsors. Want to thank, of course, Johnny's New York Style Pizza for putting this show on for us. And we do want to encourage folks to follow us on Instagram. Follow our team FYN Sports on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, because you can see in-game updates, and we do a lot of different things behind the scenes. You can follow these guys on Friday nights, and it's very exciting. RJ, I know we kind of talked about your Player of the Week a little bit. Every week we name a Team FYN Sports Writer Player of the Week, and we kind of leave that up to this guy right here, and he talked about TC, but what goes into making that decision for you, man? That's what I want to know.
Just see standout players like a couple weeks ago with Jared. A couple weeks ago, I could have picked a handful of players if I wanted to last week, especially on defense with the way they stepped up in the second half. But just notable performances. Maybe not as standout as like 3 touchdowns like Jared had, but maybe one week it'll be Aiden with like
a couple pancake blocks or something.
Pancakes, you know.
How many of those have you had so far?
I don't know. So many I can't count.
That's what I'm saying. See, I mean, he's putting his name in already for next week's, Sports Writer Player of the Week. So, that's what it's all about. How about a Coach of the Week, man? You got a Coach of the Week this week? Is it Coach Hunter over here or Coach Nelson?
We'll go with Coach Hunter.
There you go.
I like that.
He's here, so it makes sense. It makes sense. So. Oh man, obviously, as we talk about, White County has a lot of athletes, and we're going to look ahead to next week's game against Chamblee here in a few minutes, and talk a little bit about that game coming up. But obviously, White County was one of those teams that used to be in the region. There was a lot of history, of course, between the two. Going into that game, I guess, Coach, back to you on Friday night. Obviously, a lot of history between the two. You guys have a lot of recent history. I played them twice last year. Was there anything in particular that they may have done on Friday night that you guys weren't ready for, or did they kind of pretty much play to what you thought they would be?
They do about what they do. They just kind of come right out. They're not going to really try to finesse you or anything. They're coming out and doing what they do. I thought we were prepared for it. Again, I think early on I felt like defensively we were tentative and kind of afraid to make a mistake, afraid to let it hang out. And offensively, I thought later in the game we almost switched roles a little bit when we were afraid to make a mistake. And then in the fourth quarter, I really felt like, even though the turnover aside, I thought both sides finally kind of gelled and started playing the way we've been coaching, the way we've been anticipating that they would play. So, I think overall there was a lot of positives there at the end, regardless of how it came out. And I think we're all disappointed in how it came out, but I thought there was a lot of positives from it, and what White County did was what we expected them to do.
Absolutely. No surprises there, and certainly a good ball game. Obviously, Dragons do fall a little bit short on Friday night, but again, non-region game. Obviously, another game and a step closer towards region play, which cranks up next week. But before that, the Dragons do have one more non-region game against Chamblee this week, and the Dragons again getting set for a big game. There are 2 games on the road back-to-back over the last 2 weeks, and so looking forward to seeing the Dragons again on Friday night going at it. We're going to go ahead and take a timeout. When we return, we'll keep the coaches here with us, and of course my co-host, but we'll swap our players out. We'll have a couple new guys that we'll meet here in this next segment as we talk about this week's game. We thank you guys for being with us. Once again, Team FYN Sports and Johnny's New York Style Pizza in Jasper proudly presents the Pickens Power Half Hour Dragon Talk on the other side of the break. Stay with us.
Circuit World, with multiple locations to serve you in Murphy and Franklin, North Carolina, Blairsville, Blue Ridge, and Ellen, Georgia. Locally owned and operated since 1985. Appliances, electronics, and furniture. Name brand products like LG, Samsung, Dell, Whirlpool, Ashley, Catnapper, and more. No credit check, only 10% down on furniture, and only $10 down on any new lease purchase. Mention FYN10 for your special deal today at Circuit World.
Hi everyone, Dave Garner here. You might know me as a regular contributor to Team FYN Sports and the Instant Replay, but did you know I'm also your local Woodman Life representative? My job is to make sure that families are protected through needs-based life insurance and retirement. I want to make sure that you leave your loved ones with memories, not expenses. Call me today to find out how I can help you to not outlive your money and that your money outlives you. Woodman Life, standing strong for generations. And we are back with this week's Pickens Power Half Hour Dragon Talk right here on Team FYN Sports. Thank you guys for being with us. I'm your host, Dave Garner, co-host RJ Casey in the house here, head coach Jeff Nelson, assistant coach Stephen Hunter with us, and our two new players at the end of the table right here, TC Jarrett, who of course was named as the Sports Writer Player of the Week, and also Hunter Weaver joining us down there on the end tonight. And and are they giving you a hard time over here?
A little bit.
Is that what it is, man? I'm telling you, man, these guys right off camera, man, they messing with each other. But we're having a lot of fun here tonight. That's what it's all about, man. There's nothing too serious about this show, obviously, and that's really what it's all about is having a good time. Let's go, now that we've got TC here on set. Obviously, you named him as the player of the week, and rightfully so, had an interception, one of 3 on the night by the Dragons. Do you have a question for TC while I'm thinking of it, or anything you want to say to him? Or
TC, you've stepped up into a bigger role this year. How are you adjusting to that role?
I really like it. I like being a leader, sort of, and I just really like it.
you know, I've been watching you since you were like a little kid.
Yeah, I know.
I don't know if you remember.
Is that what I say?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
That
You know.
was fast.
Oh yeah, you've always been a heck of a ball player, and so now to see you now at this level and still doing your thing, man, I'm proud of you for sure. That's awesome. I guess that's the advantage of being around long enough to see guys like Coach Hunter now be a coach, you know, from a player, and seeing guys like yourself is watching y'all grow. I sound like the grandpa over here or something, you know, but.
I got
You got a question for him?
Something different and neat for me for this group is I went down to middle school for a few years. So like one of my first years at middle school, actually I think my first year was this group's 6th grade group. So I was there with them for a couple of years, and then I just kind of, for some reason, followed them up. But TC's always been just a really good tackler. If he gets near the ball, he's going to make the tackle. So.
Right. That's what it's all about. Yeah, I mean, and so it's cool because you've taken them since they were probably what, 6th, 7th grade? Or?
They played rec ball as 6th graders, but as 7th and 8th graders I was with them. And then I think I stayed down there one more year, and then I came back up as their sophomore year.
Absolutely.
So it's been neat watching them.
Yeah, materialize and develop into good young men. Hopefully. They're not getting any trouble down there.
They're teenagers, but for the most part,
that's what it's all about. Hunter, how about you? I'll ask you the same question I asked those last 2 guys that are trying to make you crack up over there. But what is your favorite part about playing football?
I just like the game. I've always played since I was little, and just kind of stuck with it.
Yeah, absolutely. I gave you a hard time about the Trevor Lawrence hair and everything, but you wear it better than he does, man. I'm just gonna give you a compliment, man.
I think he copied me. I think that's what it is.
That's probably what it is. Actually.
I started.
You didn't see, so there you go. See, you've actually had it longer than Trevor Lawrence has, so that's what it's all about. Talking about this week's game and turning the page, obviously, as we talked about, White County, thing of the past now. Great game, back and forth. Certainly nothing to be, too overly disappointed about, especially from a fan's perspective. I know the coaches and players, obviously, you want to win every game. But turning our attention now to this week's game against the Chamblee Bulldogs, 0-2 on the season, Coach. Losses to Forsyth Central and Dunwoody, which is one of their nearby teams. But they're coming off a bye, and certainly a team that you can't overlook.
No, we're still trying to find our way as well, so we don't overlook anybody. I think everybody has athletes, and so we got each week I think we have our work cut out for us, and we've studied film. We have kids up here watching film. First off, to see what we need to work on. We got to take care of us, and today we really worked on what they do, and getting ready for the week. They've got a good. Kind of a running back receiver type that's one of their top playmakers, and we got to watch out for.
Absolutely, absolutely. We do want to thank Johnny's New York Style Pizza of Jasper, by the way, once again for providing our players and coaches with our pregame meal here tonight. Now, I'm not going to lie to you, I have not broken down a lot of film in Chamblee this week. I'm just going to go ahead and admit that because that's what you guys do. But I do know a little bit about their program. Obviously, they've had a tough time coming by wins over the last 5 years. I think their last winning season was probably 2013. They were 6-4. So obviously they've struggled, but they do turn out some good athletes like you were talking about. I mean, they do have some guys that do come through that program. And what is the game plan, obviously, for you guys going into that, trying to neutralize some of that talent that they do have?
Well, I think like anything, tackling well in space. That's something we've struggled with early in the year. We run tackle circuits, and working specifically on the open field tackle.
Right.
They have 2 or 3 kids that move well in space, and that does present a problem now. Even on a busted play, they can make something out of it. So
Right.
those things where we got to stay in our lanes and work our responsibility. I think some of what we've done is early in the year is not just trying to do our job and the guy next to us instead of trusting that he's got his. And that will get you out of position. And we've got a guy in C gap when he really should have been in B because he was worried about something over here instead of worried about himself. And if we do those things, we stay in our gap, do our maintain our responsibility and our integrity on the field, I think we'll be all right.
Absolutely. Coach Hunter, I guess from an offensive standpoint, what have you seen from Chamblee?
Like you said, they're going to have some athletes running around out there, but we just got to do what we did not do last week, which is limit turnovers and limit penalties, and just, I mean, it sounds simple, but just do our job. You know, block who we're supposed to block, hold on the ball, and that should be good for us.
Here we go. Well, it's time now for the most anticipated part of the show each and every week, and that is the RJ Casey question of the week. And I know you had one for TC there earlier, which was a great question. Do you have a question for Coach Nelson this week or any of the other guys around the table?
Coach Nelson coming off 2 tough losses. You got one more game before region play starts. What are you telling the kids this week to maybe get them ready to go prior to the region play?
Well, we talked about it both Monday and the day before we went out, and that's take care of the little things. Be disciplined on the field, take care of the ball, like Coach Hunter said. Wrap up on tackles, get 11 hands to the ball, and be where you're supposed to be. If you got a stunt called on defense, then go. If you're supposed to block on the second level, then be there and block. And it's the little things that we've got to work on. I think each week we've gotten a little bit better, but now it's time to put it all together and play 4 quarters of football. And that's what we talked about. I think if we play 4 quarters of football, then we're going to have success.
Right. Good question, no doubt about it. Let's go back to our players here real quick. What about you guys? Friday night coming up. Anything in particular that you guys feel like you want to work on the rest of this week in practice? I mean, obviously Tuesdays when we do this show live, so still got a couple more days. I know Tuesday kind of tends to be that first, physical day of practice, I guess. But what are some things that you guys are working on right now to get better and to hopefully achieve on Friday night? TC, we'll start with you.
Like Coach Nelson said, tackling in open space, and just pinning watching the hip, making sure we don't overrun the ball, and coverages for linebackers. Make sure we got everybody covered up and get hands on them.
There you go.
Stuff like that.
I heard they like to pass a lot, so we're going to work on our pass drops and coverages and whatnot.
There we go. So what's the hardest day of practice? What's the hardest?
Probably Monday.
Yeah.
Monday?
Monday.
It's always hot, every Monday.
Yeah, and I guess that's film day too, I guess. Maybe break down a little
Well,
bit.
it was this week.
Yeah,
Last week,
we got a good Monday.
This Monday was easy.
Yeah, good stuff.
last week we had some motivation.
Yeah.
There you go. Yeah, exactly. Sometimes you got to have that motivation in place. I noticed something that was hanging up in the restroom earlier, and I want to. It's the laws of teamwork, and you guys have this thing posted, and there's a couple different things that stuck out to me. There's like 17 different things. I'm gonna have y'all recite them, so y'all go ahead. No, I'm just teasing. I'm just teasing. No, and y'all may know them. I don't know. But I know there were a couple things on there. One is is accountability. Obviously you guys lean on each other. And the other thing, there's a lot of great, all 17 of those things are awesome. But I noticed the accountability part and also the communication part. A lot of people don't realize, especially sitting in the stands, how much you guys are communicating on the field, especially defensively, having to communicate between the plays, especially in the back end, like the secondary and so forth. Talk about how critical communication is, aligning, make sure guys are in the right gaps and all that sort of stuff, and make sure you guys are where you need to be.
That's another thing we need to work better on. We'll get there. I think we got it this week because we've been working on it this practice good. But yeah, it's very important. Like, we had a couple busted plays because we didn't communicate right and wasn't hitting the right gaps. So I think this week we'll get it better, get it done.
Absolutely. Anything you take away from that?
Yeah, communication is key. That's how we make our coverages, and that's how we get negative plays on offense. And
That's also how you get a wife one day too. You gotta have good communication in a relationship. Don't forget that. It's key with everything. But anyway. Oh man, we always find a way to go in another direction on this show. But anyway, obviously Chamblee Friday night, last region game, so we're not even going to go ahead and talk ahead of that because it's one game at a time. Obviously, from the players and coaches' standpoints that we always talk about, but even as a fan's perspective, one game at a time. And this week it's Chamblee, so it should be very interesting. Want to thank Johnny's New York Style Pizza once again for putting the show together and feeding us before the show here. And RJ, I know you'll be there on Friday night. Looking forward to it. What do you expect out of these guys, man?
I'm expecting them to, after the last couple of weeks, expecting them to come out ready to go. Finally back home after long 2 road games and ready to get things going before region starts.
Yeah, and I want to ask you guys this too, and maybe a question for the coaches. I mean, we talk about home field advantage and all those different types of things. Do you really think that there is that home field advantage in high school football? I mean, is that a thing? Sometimes I know teams tend to focus a little bit more when they have to go on the road. I mean, I guess it works different ways, but what are your thoughts on that as far as playing in front of your home crowd here versus, a bus ride somewhere else?
Well, I do think that the bus ride can, especially if they're alone, when they can get, where they're kind of not focused on the task at hand. I think it both can work, in different ways. But I do think there is an advantage of being here, being able to go through film, getting walkthroughs, having that time to go through things that when you get on the road, all you can really do is talk to them on the bus or right before the game starts. Whereas when you're here, you can do walkthroughs, you can watch film one more time, you can go over the game plan a little more closely than you can when you're on the road. So I think those things help. And to be in a small community where everybody turns out, this place is electric. And if that doesn't get you fired up, you may be dead and somebody forgot to tell you.
Right, exactly. Nothing like seeing that sea of green coming out on Friday night, man, run out on the field with the American flags and everything else too. Always a great atmosphere here at Dragon Stadium, and we hope to see you guys here on Friday night as Pickens looks to even up their record and grab a victory here against Chamblee, and then of course it's on to region play after that. Guys, thanks for being with us. Great job as always, and maybe we'll see some new guys next week, but maybe we'll see you guys back here as well. Y'all all did a great job, so you should give yourselves a hand because you all did great. So appreciate y'all being here. Once again, a big shout out to Johnny's New York Style Pizza. Of course, our sponsor for the show, provided us with our pregame meal here tonight. Also, Pepsi with you drinks. I want to thank all of our guests. Lauren Hunter off camera tonight. She's been quiet, and I was really shocked BKP was last week too, but Lauren always does a great job. And of course, DJ behind the controls here tonight. Picture, audio, the whole thing, man, all on him. He's done a great job, and we appreciate him. We do want to encourage folks to follow Team FYN Sports on Twitter on Friday nights for highlights and scores. Also, our YouTube channel, FYNTV, Fetch Your News, playlist Pickens Power Half Hour / Dragon Talk is where you can find it. So again, you can go in, you can watch some of these programs a little bit later on if you don't catch it live. Also want to remind folks, there's a show on Monday morning, 10:10 a.m. It's called The Instant Replay, live at 10:10, but you can also pull it up on demand, and that's with Lauren Hunter live, and that is on the Team FYN Sports Facebook page as well. So again, go ahead and check out that show. It's an awesome show. Highlights, recap of all the games in our coverage area. And look for this guy right here on the sidelines Friday night, man. RJ Casey patrolling the sidelines for Team FYN Sports. And what are we doing? We're always highlighting and promoting student athletes in a positive way. Guys, thanks for being with us. Great job, and good luck this Friday. Go get them.
Thank you.
All righty. That's going to wrap things up. We'll see you same time, same place next week right here. You've been watching the Pickens Power Half Hour Dragon Talk right here with Team FYN Sports.